I don't even know how to start this, but I guess I'll start at the beginning. I'm Jason, 35, and I've been married to Melissa for 9 years. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but whose is? I thought we were doing all right. Nothing spectacular, but stable. At least, that's what I told myself. People go through ups and downs, right? You hit some rough patches, you work through them. That's how I was raised to think about marriage. Hell, that's what everyone I knew told me. Marriage is work. But lately, things had felt off. It wasn't like a sudden thing, but over the past few months, something had changed. At first, it was small stuff. She was on her phone a lot more, sometimes late at night when I was already in bed. She'd go out with her friends more than usual, which wouldn't be a big deal if she wasn't coming home later than she said she would. And don't get me wrong, I'm not the type to spy on her or get all possessive, but when you start seeing your wife dodge questions about where she's been or who she was with, your mind starts wandering. I brushed it off at first. Maybe she was just busy at work. Maybe she was reconnecting with old friends. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But then came the night that changed everything. It happened about 3 weeks ago on a Friday night. Melissa had gone out with her friends again. She told me they were going to some girls' night at a bar downtown. She said she'd be back around midnight, but by 2 a.m. I was wide awake, tossing and turning, wondering where the hell she was. I tried calling her, but no answer. At this point, I was getting pissed, but I didn't want to come off like some insecure asshole. So I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was just drunk, maybe they were still having a good time. But then I heard a car pull into the driveway. I looked at the clock, 3:10 a.m. I thought, all right, whatever, I'll give her a chance to explain herself. So I waited, sat up in bed, tried to act like I wasn't fuming inside. When she came inside, she was tipsy, smiling a little too much, talking a little too fast. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing was wrong and went straight to the bathroom. But then, as she was brushing her teeth, I noticed something on her neck. A hickey, a huge one. It took me a second to process what I was seeing. I didn't want to believe it, but there it was, unmistakable. She was fucking around on me. My heart started pounding and my chest tightened. It felt like I couldn't breathe. I didn't say anything at first. I didn't know how to even start that conversation. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't just imagining this. I wasn't paranoid. When she came out of the bathroom, I tried to act calm, but I couldn't stop myself from staring at the mark on her neck. I think she saw me looking because she started talking faster, like she was trying to cover something up. "Jason, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I tripped and scraped myself on a chair," she said. Trying to laugh it off? I swear, I'm not even lying. It's stupid, I know, but it's nothing. I just stared at her, feeling this sick weight in my stomach. This was the moment I realized everything was different. I didn't respond at first. I just kept staring at her, the words not quite making it out of my mouth. I don't think she expected that, because her smile started to fade as she shifted uncomfortably. It was like she realized I wasn't buying her bullshit. "Jason," she said, her voice a little higher than usual. "What's going on? Why are you looking at me like that?" I leaned forward, barely able to keep my voice steady. "Don't give me that, Mel. I know what a hickey looks like. Don't insult my intelligence." Her face twisted, like she was trying to figure out if I was joking or if I was serious. She ran a hand through her hair and said, "Oh my God, you're such a freak. You think I'm cheating on you over a stupid mark on my neck? That's insane." She froze. The silence hung between us, thick and suffocating. Then she blinked a few times, like she was trying to come up with something that would make it all go away. "You're overreacting," she muttered, as if that would make it better. "It's nothing, really. It was a stupid mistake, okay?" "A mistake?" I laughed bitterly. "That's your explanation? A stupid mistake?" She shook her head like she was getting frustrated, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. She couldn't lie her way out of it anymore, no matter how much she tried. "Jason, you know what? Fine," she snapped, rolling her eyes. "Yeah, I slept with someone else. Happy now?" The words hit me like a punch in the gut. I felt my stomach churn, my chest tight. I didn't know what to say or do. I just stood there, numb. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had spent nearly a decade with, had actually said it out loud. She looked away, almost embarrassed, but there was no remorse in her voice. "It was just one time. It didn't mean anything. I swear, it was just fun. I didn't think it would be a big deal." I couldn't process her words. I felt sick, like I might throw up right there. "Fun?" I echoed, the disbelief dripping from my voice. "You think this is just fun? That you could sleep with someone else and it wouldn't matter?" She folded her arms across her chest and shrugged. "I don't know what you want me to say. I made a mistake. I'm sorry if you can't handle it, but it was just a one-time thing. You're blowing this way out of proportion." It was like she wasn't even remotely sorry. It was the most dismissive attitude I'd ever seen. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was acting like she was doing me a favor by telling the truth. I couldn't even look at her anymore. "You're a fucking joke, Melissa." I needed to leave. I needed to get out of there before I did something I would regret. So I grabbed my jacket, walked out the door, and slammed it behind me. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to get away. The anger was still pulsing through me, but beneath it, there was this hollow, sick feeling that I couldn't shake. My head was spinning. I kept replaying the conversation over and over in my mind. She didn't even seem sorry. How the hell could she not feel guilty about it? How could she do that to me? I ended up driving around aimlessly for a couple of hours, parked by a lake, staring at the water, trying to get a grip. The silence felt deafening. My mind wouldn't stop racing, but all I could focus on was the image of her face when she admitted it, the casualness, the shrug. It's like she had no idea how much she had just destroyed. Around 6 a.m., I finally called my best friend, Chris. I needed someone to talk to. "Dude, what's up?" he answered, sounding groggy but concerned when he heard the edge in my voice. I could barely get the words out. She cheated on me. She admitted it, just now." There was a long pause on the other end. "Oh shit, man. I'm so sorry." His voice was quiet, trying to give me space to process. "What happened?" I explained everything to him. The weird behavior, the hickey, the confrontation, her dismissive attitude. When I finished, there was another silence, but this time it was filled with understanding. "Jason, bro, I hate to say it, but this isn't something you can just sweep under the rug. I know you want to work things out, but if she's not even sorry, if she can't even acknowledge how much she hurt you, is this really something you want to stay in?" His words hit me hard, and for the first time that night, I let myself think about it, really think about it. I had always been the "we'll fix it" guy. I was the type of person who believed in second chances, in working through stuff. But this felt different. It didn't matter how much I loved her, how much I had invested in this marriage. I couldn't get past the feeling that she had already checked out, that she'd moved on long before she told me. She'd been selfish. She'd taken something that was supposed to be sacred, and she just threw it away for a quick fling. I could feel the weight of the decision pressing on me, and I was terrified. "I don't know, man," I said finally. "I don't know if I can even look at her the same way after this. It hurts. I feel broken." Chris let out a long sigh. "You're not broken, dude. She is. But you don't have to carry her shit. You need to think about what's best for you now. I know you don't want to give up on her, but you've got to be honest with yourself. You deserve more than this." The call ended, but I didn't feel any better. I had a million thoughts running through my head, but none of them led to any real answers. I finally drove back home, parked in the driveway, and sat there for what felt like an eternity, I didn't want to go inside. I didn't want to face her. But what the hell was I supposed to do now? When I walked through the door, she was sitting on the couch, looking at her phone like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just ripped my heart out. I stood there for a second, just looking at her. She didn't even notice me. It felt like we were strangers, and in that moment, I realized something important. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was hurt. I was devastated. She looked up and smiled, like she was trying to ease the tension, but the smile felt so fake, so hollow. "Hey, you're back. Want some coffee?" I couldn't do it. I couldn't play along with her anymore. The trust was gone. The love? I wasn't sure. Everything felt like it was falling apart, and I had no idea how to pick up the pieces. I just stood there in the doorway, trying to breathe, trying to keep my emotions in check. "We need to talk," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. She didn't say anything at first. Melissa just looked at me with this blank expression, like she wasn't even sure how to respond. I think she thought I was going to act like everything was fine and we'd just move on, but there was no way in hell I could do that. I didn't sit down. I just stood there, in the middle of the living room, fists clenched by my sides. The air between us was thick, like a storm was about to break. I could feel my pulse in my ears, and every nerve in my body was screaming at me to either explode or walk out the door for good. "So, what now?" she asked, like she was bored with this whole situation. It was almost like she was bored with the whole marriage. That realization hit me harder than I expected. I finally spoke, my voice trembling with all the emotions I couldn't quite process. "What now? You seriously ask me that, Melissa?" I stepped closer, but I wasn't angry, not in the way I had been before. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was a crushing, heartbroken kind of sadness. "You cheated on me," I said, shaking my head. "You fucked someone else, and then you lied about it, and now you're acting like it's no big deal? You don't get to do that, not to me." She rolled her eyes and leaned back on the couch, acting like she was the one being inconvenienced. "Look, Jason, I already said I was sorry. I don't know what you want from me. Yeah, it was a mistake, but it's over. Can we just move on already?" "Move on? Move on? Are you serious right now? I can't just move on from this, Melissa. This isn't a mistake you can just gloss over." I was shaking with frustration, my chest tight as the anger started to rise again. "You don't get to decide when it's over. You've already destroyed everything we built, and you're just sitting here acting like you're the victim? That's not how this works." She stood up suddenly, the smirk on her face barely concealing her irritation. "God, you're exhausting. I told you, it didn't mean anything. It was just one time, just sex. It's not like we were in love or something. Why can't you get over it?" My head was spinning. Just sex? Is that what you think this is? You think this is just about sex? You don't think it's about trust, about respect? You don't think this is about everything we've been through and how you just threw it all away because it was fun? Her eyes narrowed, but there was no remorse there, none of the guilt I was looking for. "I didn't ask you to be perfect. Why do you expect me to be? We're not perfect, Jason. I'm allowed to make mistakes." This time, I couldn't hold it in. The frustration, the hurt, the anger all poured out at once, and I wasn't even sure who I was anymore. "Mistakes?" I said, my voice shaking now. No, this isn't a mistake. This is a choice. You made a choice to betray me. You made a choice to disrespect everything we've been through, and you can't even take responsibility for it." She crossed her arms, standing her ground. "Fine, I made a choice. What do you want me to do about it, Jason? You're so hell-bent on blaming me, but you're the one who doesn't trust me anymore. You're the one who can't handle it." My heart was breaking all over again, this time more slowly, more painfully. "I can't handle it? You're right. How could I? How could I ever trust you again when you've done this to me? How could I look at you the same way?" I didn't give her a chance to respond. I couldn't hear any more of her excuses. "I need space," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, though I felt like I was falling apart inside. "I can't do this right now. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I need time to figure this out. We both do." She opened her mouth like she was going to argue, but I held up a hand to stop her. "No, no more excuses, no more lies. I need space to breathe." I turned and walked out of the living room, but as I reached the door, she called after me, "Jason, don't do this. We can fix this. We can make this work." I didn't even look back. I just needed to get out. I drove aimlessly again, but this time it felt different. There was no destination, no plan, just a man who didn't know if he could fix what was broken. And part of me wasn't sure I even wanted to. I spent most of that day just driving aimlessly again. I kept telling myself I'd pull over somewhere, maybe grab a coffee or walk around, but every time I thought about parking, my chest tightened. My mind wouldn't shut up. It was like every ugly thought I'd been trying to avoid was suddenly screaming in my face. I kept picturing Melissa with whoever the hell he was. His hands on her laughing, her lying about it, her shrugging like it meant nothing. That image burned in my brain more violently than I expected. I felt humiliated in a way I didn't even know was possible. And then I started blaming myself. Was I not enough? Did I get boring? Did I miss signs years ago? Did she ever really love me, or was I just a comfortable option? That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just break your trust. It destroys the way you see yourself. I used to be a pretty confident guy. Not cocky, just stable. I knew who I was. But in that moment, I felt like a shell. Around noon, Chris called me again. "Dude, where are you?" he asked, sounding more awake this time. "I don't know," I admitted. "Just driving." He sighed. "Man, listen, you need to eat, you need to calm down, you need to—" "I'm fine." "You're not," he said bluntly. "Come over. I'll make lunch. Just get here." I didn't want to at first. I didn't want to see anyone, talk to anyone, or even exist around people. But I also didn't want to keep spiraling alone, so I finally drove to his place. When I walked in, his girlfriend, Amber, gave me this sympathetic look. The kind of look people give you when they're trying to figure out how broken you are. I hated that look. "Hey, Jason," she said softly. "I'm really sorry." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. We sat in the living room while Chris cooked something. Amber sat beside me but didn't push conversation. She just existed next to me, which honestly helped more than I expected. After a while, she said, "You know, Melissa didn't deserve you. Not the way you treated her. You were always good to her." I nodded again, swallowing hard. "Yeah, well, apparently that wasn't enough." She leaned forward. "That's not on you." I wish I believed her. When Chris came out with food, I finally managed to eat a few bites, even though my stomach felt twisted into knots. Then, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. Melissa. I stared at the screen for a long moment, my heart dropping straight into my gut. Amber saw it and gently put a hand on my shoulder. "You don't have to answer that," she said. But I did, or at least it felt like I did, so I picked it up. "Jason," Melissa said immediately, her voice shaky. "Please come home, please. I didn't sleep. I've been thinking, and I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. I'm sorry, I really am." I didn't say anything. I couldn't, not yet. "I don't want to lose you," she continued. "Just come home so we can talk, please." Her tone was different this time. Not bitchy, not dismissive. She sounded scared. And that made something twist in me, because part of me still loved her. Part of me hated her. Part of me didn't know what the hell I wanted. I hung up without saying anything. Chris looked at me. "You going back?" I didn't answer for a while. Then I stood up. "I have to," I said finally. "I need to hear what she has to say, even if I regret it." Amber gave me a worried look, but she didn't stop me. Because deep down, everyone knew this was just the beginning. I spent most of that day just driving aimlessly again. I kept telling myself I'd pull over somewhere, maybe grab a coffee or walk around, but every time I thought about parking, my chest tightened. My mind wouldn't shut up. It was like every ugly thought I'd been trying to avoid was suddenly screaming in my face. I kept picturing Melissa with whoever the hell he was. His hands on her laughing, her lying about it, her shrugging like it meant nothing. That image burned in my brain more violently than I expected. I felt humiliated in a way I didn't even know was possible. And then I started blaming myself. Was I not enough? Did I get boring? Did I miss signs years ago? Did she ever really love me, or was I just a comfortable option? That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just break your trust. It destroys the way you see yourself. I used to be a pretty confident guy. Not cocky, just stable. I knew who I was. But in that moment, I felt like a shell. Around noon, Chris called me again. "Dude, where are you?" he asked, sounding more awake this time. "I don't know," I admitted. "Just driving." He sighed. "Man, listen, you need to eat, you need to calm down, you need to—" "I'm fine." "You're not," he said bluntly. "Come over, I'll make lunch. Just get here." I didn't want to at first. I didn't want to see anyone, talk to anyone, or even exist around people. But I also didn't want to keep spiraling alone, so I finally drove to his place. When I walked in, his girlfriend, Amber, gave me this sympathetic look. The kind of look people give you when they're trying to figure out how broken you are. I hated that look. "Hey, Jason," she said softly. "I'm really sorry." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. We sat in the living room while Chris cooked something. Amber sat beside me but didn't push conversation. She just existed next to me, which honestly helped more than I expected. After a while, she said, "You know, Melissa didn't deserve you. Not the way you treated her. You were always good to her." I nodded again, swallowing hard. "Yeah, well, apparently that wasn't enough." She leaned forward. "That's not on you." I wish I believed her. When Chris came out with food, I finally managed to eat a few bites, even though my stomach felt twisted into knots. Then, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. Melissa. I stared at the screen for a long moment, my heart dropping straight into my gut. Amber saw it and gently put a hand on my shoulder. "You don't have to answer that," she said. But I did, or at least it felt like I did. So I picked it up. "Jason," Melissa said immediately, her voice shaky. "Please come home, please. I didn't sleep. I've been thinking, and I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. I'm sorry, I really am." I didn't say anything. I couldn't, not yet. "I don't want to lose you," she continued. "Just come home so we can talk, please." Her tone was different this time. Not bitchy, not dismissive. She sounded scared. And that made something twist in me, because part of me still loved her. Part of me hated her. Part of me didn't know what the hell I wanted. I hung up without saying anything. Chris looked at me. "You going back?" I didn't answer for a while. Then I stood up. "I have to," I said finally. "I need to hear what she has to say, even if I regret it." Amber gave me a worried look, but she didn't stop me. Because deep down, everyone knew this was just the beginning. I walked past her and went straight to the bedroom. I wasn't even thinking. My body just moved on its own, like it was trying to escape her presence. I stood there for a moment, staring at our bed, the bed we'd shared for almost a decade. And suddenly, it felt disgusting, like it wasn't mine anymore, like it wasn't ours. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started throwing clothes into it. Jeans, shirts, socks. I barely looked at what I was packing. I just needed to get out. From behind me, I heard her footsteps. Slow, hesitant. "Jason, what are you doing?" she asked quietly. I didn't look at her. I need space, real space, not just going for a drive. I zipped the bag. "I'm going to stay at Chris's for a while." Her voice cracked, just a little. "You're leaving?" "For now," I said. "I can't think straight with you here. I can't process anything when every time I look at you I see him." She stepped closer. "Jason, please, don't do this. We can work this out. I messed up, I know, but—" But nothing. My voice came out sharper than I intended. I turned to face her. She looked nervous, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. But her eyes? Still no tears. Still no real remorse. Just fear. Fear of consequences. Fear of loneliness. "Do you even regret it?" I asked suddenly. Her eyebrows tightened. "Of course I regret it." "Why?" I pushed. "Do you regret hurting me, or do you regret the fallout?" She looked down, and I knew the answer before she even opened her mouth. I regret hurting you," she said weakly. "You're lying," I replied instantly. Not angrily, not loudly, just truthfully. Her head snapped up. "I'm not lying." "Yes, you are. Because if you regretted hurting me, you wouldn't have tried to hide it. You wouldn't have lied. You wouldn't have dismissed me. You wouldn't have rolled your eyes at me last night." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. "You regret getting caught," I said softly. "That's all." Her lips trembled, but still no tears. "That's not fair," she whispered. "No, Melissa," I corrected. "What's not fair is spending 9 years with someone only to realize they didn't respect you enough to tell the truth. What's not fair is putting in everything you have and then being told it wasn't enough." She took a step forward. "Jason, I love you." I shook my head. Love isn't supposed to feel like this. For the first time, something on her face changed. Not sadness, panic. "Jason, please," she said, reaching out. I stepped back. "Don't." Her hand froze in midair. She swallowed hard, and for a second, I thought she might finally break, cry, show something real. But instead, she said, "So what? You're just walking out? That's it?" At that moment, every ounce of emotion in me shut down. The anger, the sadness, the confusion, they all just flattened, like a switch flipped. "No," I said calmly. "I'm walking out for now. Because if I don't, this will get uglier than it already is." She crossed her arms, but didn't argue this time. I walked past her, down the hall, gripping the bag so hard my knuckles turned white. When I reached the door, I took one last look at the house. The photos on the wall, the kitchen we remodeled together, the couch we'd picked out, the life we built. It all felt like it belonged to someone else. "Jason," she said again, her voice almost pleading. "Don't call me right now," I said without turning around. "I'll reach out when I'm ready." And then I walked out. Not dramatically, not angrily, just done. The door clicked shut behind me, and it felt like the sound echoed through my entire chest. For the first time in 9 years, I wasn't sure if I would ever walk back in. Driving to Chris's place felt like I was moving through fog. My brain felt disconnected from my body, like I was on autopilot, just following some invisible script. Everything felt surreal. I kept glancing at the empty passenger seat, expecting Melissa to suddenly be there, complaining or texting or scrolling through TikTok like nothing had happened. But she wasn't. When I finally pulled up to Chris's house, he was already waiting at the door, arms crossed, wearing that same concerned older brother expression he always used when I was going through something rough. "Damn, you really left," he said as I stepped out of the car. I just nodded. "Yeah." He didn't say anything else, just pulled me into a quick, rough hug. It felt weird. I'm not the hugging type, but I didn't pull away. Inside, Amber had set up the guest room for me. Clean sheets, spare toiletries, even a bottle of water on the nightstand, like I was staying at some emotionally devastated version of an Airbnb. "Thanks," I said quietly. "You don't need to thank us," she replied. "Just rest." But I couldn't rest. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall like an idiot, while my chest felt like it was filled with cement. My mind kept looping everything, every word, every look, every moment from the past few days. Eventually, Chris came in and sat beside me. "Talk?" he asked. "Maybe," I said. "I don't know." He nodded. "All right, then let's just sit." So we did, for a long time.
After a while, I finally asked the question that had been burning in my skull. "Do you think I made the right choice, leaving?" Chris leaned back against the wall, arms behind his head. "Jason, I think you made the only choice that lets you breathe. Doesn't mean it's final. Doesn't mean you're divorcing her tomorrow. It just means you're protecting yourself. And, yeah, I think that's right." I swallowed hard. "It hurts." "I know," he said gently. "It's supposed to." I laid down eventually, staring at the ceiling, listening to muffled noises from the living room where Chris and Amber were talking quietly. Probably about me. I checked my phone around midnight. 3 missed calls from Melissa, 1 voicemail, 2 texts. I didn't open anything, but I couldn't stop imagining what she was doing. Was she crying now? Angry? Calling Ethan? Blocking him? Blaming me? Blaming herself? Was she sitting in our house alone, or was she pacing, or lying in our bed, thinking about everything we'd said? The not knowing hurt almost as much as the betrayal. Somewhere around 2 a.m., I finally drifted off, only to wake up less than an hour later, heart racing, like I'd been jolted awake from a nightmare. The thing is, I didn't know what was happening next. I didn't know if I wanted to save the marriage or end it. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. I didn't even know if I could trust myself to make a decision while everything felt so raw. But I knew one thing. Sleeping in that house, beside her, pretending everything was normal, would have destroyed me completely. So, at 3:17 a.m., lying in a stranger's bed that wasn't really a stranger's, staring into the dark, I whispered to myself, I did the right thing, even though it hurt like hell.
I woke up the next morning feeling like I hadn't slept at all. My eyes were heavy, my head pounding, my chest tight. For a few seconds, I forgot where I was. I reached for the left side of the bed like I always did, like Melissa would be there, but it was empty. The reality hit me again, like a punch to the ribs. I sat up slowly, rubbed my face, and reached for my phone on the nightstand. I had that anxious feeling in my gut, the one that warned me something was waiting for me. I was right. 9 missed calls, 4 voicemails, 7 texts, all from Melissa. My stomach twisted so hard it almost hurt. I sat there a moment, staring at the screen, trying to convince myself not to look. But I knew I was going to. Curiosity, dread, anger, they all mixed into something that pulled me in. I tapped her messages. The first few were what I expected. "Jason, please come home. Can we talk today? I need to explain more. Please don't ignore me." Then there was one that made my blood boil. "If you're at Chris's, tell him to stop interfering. This is between us." Between us. Right, because she'd been so focused on us when she was with Ethan. I kept scrolling. The final message, the one she sent at 2:41 a.m., was the one that hit me like a truck. "I didn't tell you everything. Please come home so I can talk to you in person. I can't text this." I felt my heart drop into my stomach. I reread that message 5 times. "I didn't tell you everything." What the hell did that mean? Was it not just once? Was it not just one guy? Was it an affair, not a fling? Was she pregnant? Was she still seeing him? My mind spiraled instantly, every scenario worse than the last. That's when Chris knocked lightly on the door and poked his head in. "You up?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, showing him the screen. "Look." He read the messages, eyebrows lifting slowly. "Shit," he muttered. "That doesn't sound good." "No," I said, "it doesn't." "You gonna go?" he asked. I ran a hand through my hair. "I don't know. I feel like if I don't, I'll go crazy. But if I do, I'll probably hear something I can't come back from." He nodded. "You're gonna find out eventually, but you don't have to do it alone today." I stared at him. "You're saying what? That you'll come with me?" "Yeah," he said simply. "I'm not letting you walk into whatever this is by yourself." I didn't expect that. I felt something loosen in my chest. "Thanks, man." "Always," he said. "We'll eat first, then go." But I couldn't eat. My stomach felt like it was twisted into knots. All I could think about was Melissa's message, repeating in my head like an alarm I couldn't turn off. I didn't tell you everything. By the time we got in the car, my hands were shaking. As I pulled out of the driveway, Chris looked over and said quietly, "Whatever she tells you doesn't define you. It doesn't change who you are." I nodded, but I didn't believe him yet, because deep down I knew. Whatever she was hiding, whatever she was about to say, it was going to change everything. The drive back to the house felt like approaching a crime scene you're somehow both the victim and the suspect in. My hands were still shaking on the wheel, and every time I exhaled, it came out shaky. Chris kept glancing at me, probably making sure I didn't pass out or drive into a ditch. When we pulled into the driveway, Melissa's car was still there. Seeing it made something twist inside me. Anger, resentment, nostalgia, grief, all tangled together in a way I couldn't separate. "Want me to come in?" Chris asked quietly. "Yes," I said instantly, no hesitation. I wasn't walking into that house alone. We stepped inside, and Melissa was already standing in the living room, arms wrapped around herself, like she'd been pacing for hours. Her eyes were red, not from crying, but exhaustion. She might have cried at some point, but I wasn't giving her credit for it. When she saw Chris beside me, her jaw tightened. "Oh, so you brought your babysitter?" she said, crossing her arms. Chris raised an eyebrow. "Nice to see you, too." I ignored her tone and walked further in. "You said you had something else to tell me, so tell me." She swallowed hard and nodded toward the couch. "Can we sit?" "No," I said. "Just talk." Melissa looked between me and Chris, clearly annoyed he was there, but she didn't protest. "Fine," she whispered, "but, Jason, please don't freak out. Just let me explain everything before you say anything." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Just say it." She closed her eyes for a second, then opened them slowly. "It wasn't just once." My heartbeat dropped into my stomach. I didn't speak, I didn't move, I didn't even breathe. She kept going. "It wasn't just one night. It was a few weeks." My legs felt weak. Chris muttered under his breath, "Jesus Christ." Melissa took a shaky breath and continued. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want to hurt you even more, and I didn't know how to explain it. I kept telling myself it wasn't serious, that I would stop, that it was just stupid. But things got out of control, and I should have ended it sooner." I stared at her blankly. "Out of control? What the hell does that mean?" She flinched. "I mean, we talked, a lot, and we saw each other more than I told you. It wasn't emotional, okay? It wasn't like that. I didn't love him." She said that like it was supposed to help. My voice came out hollow. "How long?" 2 months, she whispered. I felt physically sick, like the air had been sucked out of the room, like my bones were dissolving. Chris took a step closer to me, probably sensing I was about to collapse. Melissa kept talking, words tumbling out fast. "It started as flirting, then it turned into meeting up, and then it turned into sex. But it wasn't like I wasn't in love with him. He just made me feel wanted, I guess, like I wasn't invisible. You were distant, and he—" I held up a hand sharply. "Stop blaming me." She froze. I could feel anger rising in me, slow, cold, dangerous. Not the explosive kind from before, something worse. "You cheated," I said quietly. "You lied, for months. You slept with him over and over, and you hid it every day like it was nothing." "I know," she whispered, finally sounding broken. "I know, and I'm sorry. I didn't know how to stop it." "You stop it by not doing it at all," I snapped. "You tell me by opening your damn mouth instead of opening your legs." She covered her face with her hands. "Jason, please." I stepped back from her like she was on fire. Chris put a hand on my shoulder. "We should go, man." But I couldn't leave, not yet, not without asking the one question clawing its way up my throat.
"Are you still seeing him?" I asked. She shook her head vigorously. "No, no, I blocked him, I swear. It's over. It's been over." "When?" I demanded. "When did you end it?" She hesitated. That hesitation was everything. "Melissa," I growled. "Last week," she whispered. "Before you found out." My mouth fell open slightly. She ended the affair, not because she realized it was wrong, not because she wanted to save the marriage, but because she got bored, or scared, or something else entirely. I stared at her like I'd never seen her before. "That's all I needed to hear," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm done." She gasped. "Jason, please, no, no, don't say that." But I meant it. For the first time since everything started, I meant it.
When I said I'm done, something in Melissa's face completely collapsed. Not the annoyed, defensive meltdown she'd been giving me all week. This time, she actually looked terrified. "Jason, please," she whispered, taking a small step toward me. I stepped back immediately. "No," I said sharply, "don't come near me." She froze like I'd slapped her. For a moment, the room went totally silent. Even Chris held his breath. The air felt electric, heavy, suffocating, like the walls were closing in. Then Melissa suddenly broke. Not the manipulative tears I'd seen before. This was the ugly kind, the real kind. Shoulders shaking, breath hitching, full-on breakdown. She covered her face and let out a stuttering sob. "Jason, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please don't give up on me. Please." I just stared at her. I'd waited for this, for some sign of real remorse for days. But now that it was finally happening, all I felt was exhaustion. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel sympathy. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I felt hollow, like she'd scraped out everything inside me and left an empty shell. "Melissa," I said quietly, "you didn't just make a mistake. You built a whole second life. You lied every day. You slept with someone else for 2 months. And the entire time, you let me think we were just going through a rough patch?" She dropped to her knees in front of me, sobbing into her hands. "Jason, I didn't know how to stop," she rasped. "I didn't mean to fall into it. He just made me feel alive again. I felt wanted. I felt, I don't know, special. And I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't let go. I was stupid. I was selfish. I swear to God, it meant nothing." "Stop," I interrupted. "You keep saying it meant nothing. If it meant nothing, you wouldn't have done it over and over." She lowered her hand slowly, looking up at me with red, swollen eyes. "I know, but I love you. I swear I do." I laughed, an empty, humorless sound. "You love me? You love me so much you cheated for 8 weeks straight?" She flinched again, shrinking back. Chris stepped forward a little, not to interfere, but to be closer in case things escalated emotionally. I ran a hand over my face. My whole body felt heavy. "You didn't stop the affair," I said slowly. "You stopped because you got scared I'd find out. You stopped because the thrill wore off, not because you cared about us." "That's not true," she insisted desperately. "I ended it because I realized what I was losing." "You ended it last week," I snapped, "and you didn't tell me. You weren't planning to tell me. You were going to take this to your grave." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. "I didn't tell you because I thought if I pretended it never happened, maybe it would fade away," she whispered. I shook my head in disbelief. "You thought pretending would save us?" She nodded weakly. "And you thought I would be what? Your safety net? The guy you go back to when your little affair stops being fun?" Her face twisted, devastated. "Jason, please. I love you. I'm begging you. Please don't leave me." "But here's the thing. Love isn't supposed to feel this humiliating." I took a long breath. "Melissa, I can't even look at you without feeling sick." She covered her mouth and shook with another sob. Chris spoke up for the first time. "Jason, let's go." He was right. Staying there was like bleeding out in slow motion. Melissa reached out again, fingers trembling. "Jason, please, talk to me, yell at me, hate me, anything. Just don't walk out." I stepped back again. "I need space," I said firmly. "I need time. And honestly, I don't know if there's anything left to save." She let out a broken sound, half sob, half gasp. "Please, Jason." But it didn't change anything. I turned away, grabbed the doorknob, and opened the door. Before stepping out, I said one thing without looking at her. "You didn't just break my trust. You broke the version of me that trusted you." Then I walked out, and this time she didn't follow me. Not because she didn't want to, but because she finally understood she'd pushed me past a line she couldn't pull me back from. When Chris and I got back to his place, neither of us said a word for a while. The kind of silence that feels thick, like it's wrapping around your throat. I dropped my bag on the floor and sank onto the couch, staring at nothing. Chris finally sat across from me, elbows on his knees. "You holding up?" I shook my head slowly. "Not really." He nodded like he expected that. "Yeah, that was rough." "Rough?" I laughed quietly. "Rough doesn't cover it." I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. My chest hurt. Not like heartbreak hurt, more like someone had opened me up, taken out everything inside, and left the cavity empty and echoing. I kept replaying the scene in my head, her falling to her knees, her crying harder than I'd ever seen, her begging, her confession, and I still didn't feel anything close to forgiveness, just a colder, quieter pain. It wasn't rage anymore. It wasn't numbness. It was grief. Not just for the marriage, but for the version of myself I used to be. I rubbed my face. She didn't even tell the truth until I forced it out of her. 2 months, man. 2 freaking months. Chris nodded. "She kept lying because she didn't think you'd leave." "That's what kills me," I whispered. "She thought I was so loyal, so predictable, that she could do whatever she wanted, and I'd just stick around like a dumbass." He didn't respond. He didn't need to. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "She only ended the affair last week. Last week, Chris. Not because she regretted it, not because she loved me, because she thought she could hide it forever." I swallowed hard. She chose him. For 2 months, she chose him. The words sounded unreal even as I said them. Chris sat back. "What now?" I stared at the floor. "I don't know. I don't know anything right now." "Well," he said softly, "you don't have to decide today." I nodded, but the knot in my stomach tightened. I feel like everything in my life just detonated. He sighed. "Yeah, it did." We sat there in silence for a while, just letting the weight settle. Eventually, Amber came home and peeked her head into the living room. "Hey, how are you doing?" she asked gently. I shrugged. "Like I got hit by a truck." She came in and sat beside me. "That's normal." I exhaled sharply. "Is it normal that I don't even feel like crying? I feel like I should be breaking down right now, but I'm just empty." "That's shock," Amber said softly. "Your body's protecting you." I nodded. Maybe that was true. Or maybe I was just broken now. Amber squeezed my shoulder. "You're going to be okay. Not today, not tomorrow, but you will." I didn't respond. My phone buzzed then, making me flinch. I picked it up. "Melissa, please come home. I can't stop shaking. I need you." I stared at the message for a long time. Chris leaned over. "Don't answer." "I'm not," I said. I turned the phone off. Not on silent, off, because I couldn't keep letting her voice pull me back into the chaos. For the rest of the evening, I didn't move much. I didn't talk. I didn't think about the future. I just existed. Barely. At one point, I said quietly, "I don't know who I am without her." Chris shook his head. "No, man. You don't know who you are without the version of her you thought she was." I closed my eyes. Those words hit harder than anything Melissa had said. He was right. The woman I loved, the one I'd built a life with, didn't exist anymore. Or maybe she never did. And as the realization washed over me, slow and cold, one thing finally broke through the numbness. This marriage was on life support, and I wasn't sure I wanted to revive it. I didn't sleep that night, not even a few minutes. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw something. Melissa's face when she confessed, Ethan's name in her mouth, the hickey on her neck, the nights she stayed out late, every red flag I'd ignored. By sunrise, my brain felt fried. Exhaustion mixed with adrenaline, like my body couldn't decide what it needed more. Around 7 a.m., I finally got up from the couch and walked outside to the porch. The air was cold, crisp, grounding. I sucked in a deep breath and let it burn a little in my lungs. For the first time in days, it felt quiet in my head. A few minutes later, Chris joined me with 2 cups of coffee. "You look like hell," he said, handing me one. "Feel like it," I muttered. We stood there for a while, not talking, just listening to the morning sounds. Cars starting, dogs barking, someone mowing their lawn way too early. Chris finally broke the silence. "So, what are you thinking?" I stared out at the street for a long moment. "I'm thinking I don't recognize my own life." He didn't respond. He just waited. "I keep replaying everything," I continued. 9 years. We were supposed to be a team. We were supposed to work through shit together. And instead, she went behind my back for 2 months. 2 months, man. While I was busting my ass at work, dealing with my dad's hospital bills, trying to keep us afloat, she was out there screwing some guy." Chris took a sip of his coffee, listening. "And what kills me," I added, "is that she didn't stop because she felt guilty. She stopped because she got scared, or bored, or both." He nodded. "You're seeing things clearly now." "I think," I paused, swallowing hard, "I think I'm done." Chris didn't jump in with reassurance or advice. He let the words hang in the air. After a moment, he said quietly, "If that's your decision, then it's the right one." I nodded slowly. I don't want to hate her for the rest of my life. I don't want to stay and turn into someone bitter and angry. And I don't want to be with someone who proved she doesn't value me. "That's fair," he said. I sighed. "I'm scared. Ending a marriage, it feels like cutting off a limb." "It's supposed to," he said. "But sometimes the limb is infected." I let out a weak laugh. "That's a terrible metaphor." "It is," he agreed, "but it's true." We went back inside. I grabbed my phone and turned it on. Immediately, it buzzed non-stop with notifications, Melissa calling, texting, leaving voicemails. I didn't listen to a single one. Instead, I typed one message. "I need some days to figure out the next steps. Please don't contact me until then." I stared at it for a moment, thumb hovering over the send button. Then I hit send. I felt something shift inside me. Pain, yes, but also clarity, control, strength I didn't know I had left. Chris watched me. "That's a good start." I nodded. "I think so too." For the rest of the day, I made a list. Not of what I'd lost, but of what I needed to do next. Find a lawyer, tell my parents, figure out housing, get my stuff, protect myself emotionally, breathe. Keep breathing. It was overwhelming, yes, but it was also the first time I'd felt even a tiny bit hopeful. Not hopeful about the marriage, but hopeful about me. Because for the first time in 9 years, I was making a choice that wasn't about maintaining the relationship. It was about saving myself. And that realization hit hard. I wasn't just leaving Melissa. I was choosing me for once. 3 days passed before I saw Melissa again. I'd stuck to my message. No calls, no texts. I spent the time doing everything I could to stabilize myself, talking to a lawyer, journaling, trying to sleep, going on long drives, sitting in silence, staring at the ceiling, taking deep breaths that didn't quite reach the bottom of my lungs. On the third day, I went back to the house with Chris to grab some of my things. I wanted to avoid drama, avoid another emotional meltdown, avoid anything that might pull me back into the gravitational force of the past 9 years. But she was home, standing in the hallway when I walked in. She looked different, like she hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, hadn't stopped crying. Her eyes were swollen, hair messy, hands shaking a bit. When she saw me, she covered her mouth like she'd been hit with something physical. "Jason," she whispered through trembling fingers. I didn't say her name back. I didn't move toward her. I just stood there, steady but emotionally distant, like someone walking back into a burned-down house. She stepped forward cautiously. "Can we talk?" I shook my head. "Not much to talk about." "Please," she said, voice cracking, "let me say this." I let her, not because I owed her anything, but because I needed closure too. She took a shaky breath. "I know I ruined everything. I know I destroyed us. And I can't take it back. I can't erase it. I can't pretend it didn't happen. I want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry, Jason." Tears streamed down her face, and she wiped them away with shaking hands. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said. "I don't expect you to stay. I want you to know. I loved you. I did. I was stupid and selfish and broken, and I took it out on the one person who never deserved it." Her voice broke again. "You didn't deserve any of it. You were good to me. You loved me. You trusted me. And I threw it away like an idiot. I know that." Something inside me softened for a moment, not for her, but for the version of myself that loved her so fiercely. I felt sorry for that version of me. But the present me, he was done bleeding. "I'm sorry you're hurting," I said quietly, "but I can't unsee what happened. I can't unknow it. I can't pretend this marriage is something it isn't." She squeezed her eyes shut, a sob escaping. "I don't want a divorce," she whispered. "I know," I said, "but I do." She dropped to her knees again, sobbing into her hands, just like before. But this time, it didn't break me. It hurt, yes. God, it hurt. But it didn't change my decision. I'd spent 9 years loving her. She spent 2 months betraying me. And that mismatch was too big to overcome. I grabbed the last of my things, walked past her gently, and paused by the door. "Melissa," I said softly. She looked up, hope flickering in her ruined expression. "When someone shows you what you mean to them, believe them." Her face crumpled again, and she whispered my name like a prayer falling apart. But I didn't turn back. I walked out the door, and this time the air felt colder, but also cleaner. Chris was waiting in the car. When I got in, he didn't ask what happened. He could see it in my face. "You good?" he asked. I thought for a long moment, then nodded. "Not yet, but I will be." He patted my shoulder. "That's enough." As we drove away, I looked at my phone, at the blank screen reflecting my face. And in that reflection, I saw someone I barely recognized. A man who'd been broken, but not destroyed. A man beginning again, not collapsing. A man who finally chose himself, not because he stopped loving her, but because he finally started loving himself enough to walk away. So here's my advice to anyone reading this who's where I was. If someone betrays your trust, don't blame yourself. If someone treats your loyalty like a safety net, cut the ropes. If someone lies to you with a straight face, they've already made the decision for you. Believe their actions, not their apologies. You may not feel strong now, but you will. You'll survive. You'll rebuild. You'll breathe again. And one day, you'll thank yourself for choosing peace over pieces. I know I will.